There is a reason why some nights feel heavier than others, why certain dreams refuse to dissolve with the morning light, and why some fears linger shapeless, yet suffocating. You may have dismissed them as fragments of imagination, but what if they are not? What if those restless echoes are remnants, whispers from a life your conscious mind has long forgotten? Close your eyes just for a moment and breathe deeper, slower. Listen, not with your ears, but with the marrow of your soul. Somewhere beneath the chatter of the waking world, beyond the static of logic and reason, there is a frequency, subtle, persistent, ancient. It calls to you. Perhaps you've felt it. A strange familiarity in a place you've never been. Their face in a crowd that evokes unexplainable sorrows or joy or terror, an irrational fear that coils around you without cause, nightmares that seem too vivid to be fiction. These are not random. They are not mistakes of biology or tricks of the mind. They are traces of something profound. Something that modern science is only beginning to graze, yet something that mystics, shamans, and sages have whispered about for millennia. Dr. Brian Weiss, psychiatrist, scientist, skeptic turned seeker, uncovered this hidden architecture of the soul through the doorway of regression. His patients, in states of deep hypnosis, began recounting lives that were not their own, at least not in the way we define ownership in this fleeting existence. Lives stretching across centuries, cultures, continents. Stories of love found and lost, of mistakes repeated, of wisdom slowly gathered shard by shard. But why do these forgotten lives bleed into this one? Why do some of us carry nightmares that are not rooted in this timeline? The answer is both unsettling and liberating. The soul remembers what the mind forgets, and the forgetting, while necessary for the illusion of linear time, is never absolute. Underneath the surface of your current identity, there exists a vast library, a continuum of experiences, choices, consequences, and emotions that you have lived, died through, and been reborn from. Nightmares are often bookmarks, not punishments, not malfunctions, but invitations. Invitations to remember what was left unresolved, to heal wounds whose origins stretch far beyond the cradle of this lifetime. Perhaps the faceless figure that haunts your sleep once carried a role in your story. Perhaps the drowning sensation, the suffocating chase, the fall, the fire, are not mere symbols, but fragments of something your conscious self cannot yet name. This realization is not meant to frighten you. Quite the opposite, it is a doorway. And standing at the threshold, you are offered a choice. Remain confined within the narrow corridors of the visible, or step beyond into the deeper architecture of your own being. The truth is, you are more than this skin, more than this name, more than this singular line of memory. You are a continuum, vast, luminous, unfinished. And these echoes, these strange visitations in the quiet of night, are not curses. They are messengers. Brian Weiss teaches us that when we dare to look, when we soften the rigid boundaries of identity and time, healing begins. Patterns that have suffocated us dissolve. Fears lose their grip. Relationships make sense in ways that defy logic. And most importantly, we awaken to a truth both terrifying and beautiful. Nothing is ever truly lost. Not love, not lessons, not life itself. This is the beginning of remembrance. And as we step deeper into this exploration, allow yourself, just for a moment, to trust that your consciousness knows the way. If this resonates with something deep within you, something ancient yet familiar, consider subscribing to this channel. Together we'll continue this journey beyond the veil of forgetting. From the moment we are born into this life, a veil descends. A soft but impenetrable curtain of forgetting. It wraps itself around the newborn mind, gently severing the thread that connects conscious awareness to the infinite tapestry of prior existences. And so we grow, believing we are singular, isolated, new, but the soul never truly forgets. Have you ever wondered why certain paths feel predestined? Why some relationships ignite with instant familiarity or instant aversion? Why some choices feel strangely inevitable, as if written in the marrow of your being long before you arrived here. The veil is not a punishment, it is a tool. A necessary blindness that allows the soul to focus, to immerse itself fully in the lessons of this specific incarnation. Imagine carrying the full weight of 1,000 lifetimes, the grief, the joy, the betrayals, the deaths, the triumphs. How could one possibly navigate the delicate complexity of a single life with such a burden fully conscious? And yet, cracks form. Subtle fractures in the veil, dreams déjà vu, unexplainable longings, nightmares that arrive not as mere random firings of neurons, but as signals, ruptures where the forgotten demands to be seen. Weiss discovered through hundreds of patients that beneath deep hypnosis, beneath the protective shield of the conscious mind, the soul begins to speak. And when it speaks, it does not speak in the language of the current life alone. It reveals landscapes untouched by this incarnation, faces, names, centuries, all waiting patiently in the quiet vaults of the subconscious. These revelations are not entertainment, they are medicine. They offer understanding where confusion once reigned. They illuminate the origins of fears, addictions, anxieties, and even chronic physical ailments, often rooted not in childhood, but in a wound carried across lifetimes. Consider the nightmare of drowning. A person plagued by this recurring terror may find, under regression, the vivid memory of a life lost at sea, lungs filling, the cold grip of water, the helplessness. And even though that body is long gone, the cellular memory, the emotional imprint, remains active, echoing into the present. Or the person who fears abandonment, not because of any experience in this life, but because in another they were left behind, alone in a famine, a war, a plague. The soul remembers, and it calls out, not to torment, but to heal. The veil, though protective, is porous by design. Life conspires to trigger remembrance. Soulmates cross paths, synchronicities pile up, and sometimes suffering becomes the key that cracks open the door, not as cruelty, but as invitation. You might ask, why remember at all? Why lift the veil? Because remembering dissolves fear. When you begin to glimpse the endless continuum of your own being, death loses its grip. The smallness of temporary problems fades. Life takes on a different texture, a sacredness, a clarity. The ego's desperate cling to permanence softens, and what arises is not detachment, but a deeper form of love, a love that spans centuries. A compassion rooted in knowing that every soul you meet is someone you have danced with before. This is the deeper meaning of the nightmares. They are not enemies, they are not flaws, they are keys. Keys to a door that waits patiently, quietly, just beyond the veil of amnesia. And as you listen, as you allow your mind to soften, your heart to open, you may already feel it. The edges of the veil thinning, the whispers becoming clearer. You are not just remembering a past life, you are remembering yourself as a timeless traveler, a soul wrapped in infinite stories, all converging now. There is something profoundly humbling and unsettling about realizing that the struggles you face today might not have originated in this lifetime. The recurring patterns, the magnetic pull toward certain experiences, the unexplained resistance to others, they are not accidents. They are the fingerprints of the soul's unfinished work. Weiss discovered that the soul is bound not by time, but by vibration. What remains unresolved does not simply vanish with death. It echoes forward. It ripples through the invisible architecture of your being, silently shaping the conditions of your next life and the next, until awareness transforms it. Imagine a thread woven through centuries, tangled in moments of betrayal, abandonment, guilt, or grief. Now imagine that thread still woven through your current life, manifesting as toxic relationships, chronic fears, or mysterious obstacles. This is not punishment. It is opportunity, an invitation to see, to heal, to transcend. Many of Brian Weiss's patients discovered that the moment they remembered the origin of a wound, even if that origin was lifetimes ago, the wound began to dissolve. A woman who suffered from chronic throat pain recalled under hypnosis a life where her voice had been silenced, her truth violently suppressed. As she relived and released that moment, the pain present for decades simply vanished. Another patient, plagued by an intense fear of fire, traced it back to a past life where she perished in a house engulfed in flames. Once witnessed and honored, the fear loosened its grip, no longer controlling her waking life. But the patterns are not only about suffering, they are also about gifts. Talents that emerge effortlessly, intuitions that defy logic, the inexplicable knowing of how to heal, how to lead, how to create beauty. These are the sacred residues of lives well lived, skills and wisdom encoded in the very fabric of your soul. The problem is, when the veil keeps these patterns hidden, they can feel like fate. They become unconscious scripts running in the background, dictating choices, reactions, and even destinies. But the moment the unseen becomes seen, fate transforms into freedom. This is the profound gift of remembrance. To no longer be a puppet of forgotten stories, but the conscious author of your becoming. Your nightmares, then, are simply the loudest signals, the soul's alarm bells. They arise not to scare, but to illuminate. "Look here," they whisper. "There is something you have carried long enough. Are you ready to release it?" And release does not require reliving every moment of suffering. It only requires witnessing, feeling, understanding, and above all, choosing to break the cycle, to forgive, to integrate the lesson, to reclaim the energy that has been fragmented across time. Brian Weiss reminds us that the universe is not cruel. It is exquisitely precise. Every encounter, every challenge, every joy, every fear is a thread in the greater tapestry of your soul's evolution. Nothing is random, nothing is wasted. When you begin to see life this way, the grip of helplessness fades. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a traveler, a weaver of experiences, gathering threads of wisdom from lifetime to lifetime. The question then is not, "Why is this happening to me?" but rather, "What is this trying to show me?" As we continue, allow yourself to hold this truth gently. Your nightmares, your longings, your fears are not walls. They are doors. And with every breath, every moment of awareness, you hold the key to step through them, into remembrance, into liberation, into the radiant, timeless truth of who you really are. There is a sacred moment when the forgotten becomes remembered, a threshold where fear dissolves into clarity and suffering transforms into wisdom. It is here, at this quiet intersection between memory and awareness, that true healing begins. Brian Weiss discovered something extraordinary. The soul does not demand that you relive pain. It simply asks that you acknowledge it, that you witness the truth of your journey across lifetimes, not as a burden, but as a map that leads back to wholeness. When his patients stepped into the corridors of their past lives, something profound unfolded. The phantoms that haunted their nights, the nightmares, the persistent anxieties, the emotional blockages began to lose their grip. Because when the origin is revealed, the illusion of helplessness shatters. It is not magic, it is the physics of consciousness. What remains unconscious controls you. What is brought to light transforms. A man tormented by an unrelenting fear of suffocation found the root in a lifetime where he perished trapped underground. His current body still remembered the terror, the closing walls, the thinning air, even though the mind had long forgotten. The moment he faced that memory, something released. His breath, for the first time in decades, became free, effortless. Another patient, burdened by a lifetime of failed relationships, traced the pattern back to a vow of celibacy taken as a monk several centuries ago. A sacred vow, then, but one whose energetic imprint echoed long beyond its time. Once recognized, he was able to consciously release it, opening his life to connection, intimacy, and love. The body remembers, the psyche remembers, the soul remembers, and perhaps so do you. The nightmare that wakes you drenched in fear, the sense of drowning, falling, being chased, is not always metaphor. It may be a fracture, a scar across time, asking to be seen, held, and finally released. But this work is not merely about dissolving pain. It's about reclaiming you, the scattered fragments, the lost voices, the wisdom buried under lifetimes of forgetting. Weiss teaches that the soul is not fragile, it is vast, eternal, capable of holding infinite experiences without being broken by them. And when you begin to remember, a remarkable thing happens. You realize that the very things you feared were the keys to your liberation. Healing does not come from escaping the past, it comes from embracing it with the full radiant light of present awareness. To look upon the wounds not with judgment, but with the deep, compassionate understanding that they were simply lessons, unfinished stories waiting for closure. And sometimes, what's waiting to be remembered is not pain, but power. The healer you once were, the artist, the mystic, the warrior, the lover. These archetypes do not belong to history, they belong to you. They are the echoes of who you have been, and who you still are beneath the costume of this current life. When the nightmare dissolves, when the veil lifts, you come to understand a truth both humbling and empowering. You are not your fear. You are not your suffering. You are not even this singular identity. You are the observer, the witness, the timeless presence weaving experience into wisdom, lifetime after lifetime. And as you breathe into that truth, something softens. The grip of old patterns loosens. The shadows retreat. And in their place, spaciousness, freedom, a quiet, radiant knowing that you are whole, you are safe, and you are home within yourself. As we prepare to enter the final chapter of this journey, allow your awareness to expand. Let the whispers of your own soul rise from the depths. You are not here by accident. You are remembering, exactly as you were always meant to. There is a silence deeper than any sound. A silence where truth resides, not as information, but as pure knowing. Beneath the noise of the waking world, beneath the fragile constructs of identity and time. This silence has been calling you. Perhaps you feel it now. The nightmares, the déjà vu, the unexplainable fears. They are not accidents. They are threads. Threads woven through the fabric of your soul's eternal journey. Each one is a signal, a pulse of remembrance echoing from a life that shaped you and still lives within you. When Weiss began unlocking these mysteries through past life regression, what emerged was not just healing, it was revelation. His patients discovered that nothing is ever truly lost, not the love, not the lessons, not the connections. Death is not an erasure, it is simply a doorway. And on the other side is memory, continuity, evolution. Your soul has never stopped moving, never stopped growing. You are a traveler walking across lifetimes, gathering wisdom, shedding illusions, refining the light within you. When you remember, really remember, everything changes. You realize that the person who broke your heart may have been your sibling in another life, or your parent, or your greatest love. You realize that the child you hold now may have once been your protector, your teacher, or even your own mother centuries ago. These roles shift, dance, dissolve, but the bond, the energetic imprint, remains unbroken. This is why some meetings in life feel destined, why a stranger's glance can shake you, why certain goodbyes feel like endings older than this life could possibly explain. Because they are. And yet, the beauty of this truth is not in the sorrow of what was. It is in the profound liberation of knowing that nothing is truly over, that the threads of love, of connection, of learning continue, always. Even the nightmares, even the shadows unhold gifts. They are not here to punish, but to awaken. To remind you that the fears you carry were never meant to be prisons. They were always meant to be bridges. Bridges back to yourself. Weiss's work shows us that the soul does not operate in straight lines. It spirals, it revisits, it reweaves, and in every loop, every turn, there is opportunity. Opportunity to release, to forgive, to remember, to become. Imagine just for a moment standing before a vast tapestry, the tapestry of your soul. each thread a life, some radiant with joy, some stained with grief, some unraveling, some newly woven. And yet, together, they form something breathtaking, something sacred, something whole. You are that tapestry, you are the artist, you are the witness. And as this awareness deepens, a new kind of freedom arises. The fear of death softens because you understand that death is not the end. The fear of loss fades because you see that no connection is ever truly severed. The fear of failure dissolves because you realize that life is not a test. It is a classroom with infinite chances to learn, to grow, to love. So when the nightmares come, when the echoes from forgotten lives whisper through your sleep, meet them not with fear but with curiosity, with compassion, with the quiet, steady knowing that you are more than this moment, you are more than this body, you are the eternal presence behind it all. And as you carry this truth forward, remember this is only the beginning of your journey. There is so much more waiting to be uncovered, waiting to be remembered. If these words touched your soul, subscribe to the channel and click on the video that just appeared on your screen. It was chosen especially for you. I know you'll love it.